Good afternoon, evening, morning, everyone. Sorry about the delay here. We had a little bit of a technical hitch.
It was Ash's fault.
It's always my fault. But hey, there you go. How's everyone doing?
Yeah, good. I'm so looking forward for this. It's one of the few people that really changed my life, professional and personal, and forever grateful. I'm so excited.
I've got a feeling you're not the only one.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining, everyone. Sorry, go on, Wes.
I just wanted to check my mic. That's all. I know we're late on, so anyway.
You're good. You sound bad as always.
Yeah, before we bring our guests on, let us know where you're from, if you're team live as usual or watching the recorded version, and we'll make sure we respond to every comment now or after the event is done. In fact, let's start with how's your week? Drop us a comment about one good thing that's happened this week for you guys in the comments. And we'll start. What about us, Wes Martin? Anything this week?
I think this is the cherry on top. I think honestly, it's hard to beat this one.
Are you like fanboying like already?
I am.
Well, I'll answer your question, Ash. So I think this week we've had a few things happen this week that's positive, 100%. For those that haven't figured out yet, we're off to Reflect. We're off to Cyprus. We're off to the second motherland. We've got a few things lined up. We've got a free workshop as part of Reflect, and lastly, people get to listen to me on stage. How good's that?
Not sure.
Are we ready?
That's me, not sure.
Ready? Like, this is a public announcement because Tony's Chocolonely need to back us on this. Because we're going to be talking about Tony's to the island, or to the tech island of Cyprus. That's what
we need. Tony's.
We did Liquid Death first, and now it's time for Tony.
Last time, Tony's in the island now.
So Miroslav is saying he's quit advertising after 20 years. That's big news, Miroslav.
Huge, bro. Huge, bro.
Good move out of the Shark Tank.
Yeah.
All right, so listen, let's get into it because we're already late. This week's episode, we're going to unpack, I guess, the concept of personal branding, and we're going to get some advice and tips from someone who knows the personal brand and business space really well. So without further ado, let's introduce our guest. And for many, he doesn't need an introduction. His company and his own personal brand has millions of followers on social media. He's an Emmy award-winning designer who has previously worked with the likes of Microsoft, Sony, Nike, Starbucks, and many more. He's now a teacher, coach, consultant, speaker, CEO and founder of a company called The Future, which is an online education platform with a mission of teaching 1 billion people to make a living doing what they love. I've been personally mentored by him, coached by him, and inspired by him many times over. I'm sure by now you know who it is. Give it up for our good friend, Christo, everyone.
Here he is.
Hey, everybody. What's going on, guys?
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
Right. We all just suddenly hit a silence.
Yeah, because Christo is in the room.
Well, listen, Chris, thanks for joining us, and I know it's early for you as well. So we've just, all of us here have been massively inspired by what you do. I'm part of the Future Pro Group, so I know you've changed a lot of my career in a good way, and everything that I do online as well is inspired by you. So, and I really appreciate that. So I just want to hand you those flowers there now. But then also, people online, there's people starting that probably don't know you as well. So let's start there. Let's start with your journey. Wes had this really good question, which I thought was, I'd not really thought about it when it comes to your own experience. You have a really strong personal brand. Was building one intentional for you from the start?
Oh, what a good question. My goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, Wes, thanks for acknowledging that I have a personal brand. I'm curious, before I answer that question, when you think of my personal brand, what do you think of, Wes? Like, what are a couple like top 3 or 4 ideas or notions that you think about me?
I'm a really visual person. First thing that comes to mind is your glasses, your hat. I think that's because I struggled with time with wearing a hat, and now our shackles are off. That's who I am. Powerful presence. That's your personal brand. But I believe, and obviously I don't know you that well, but we'll get to know each other today. You've got a purpose, you've got a care at heart, and if I was to be honest, I feel that you want to wrap everyone in cotton wool and just guide them through life. That's how I see you come.
Love it.
How wrong?
Well, thanks. Yeah, thank you. You know what? So maybe this is a clue for all of us that before we enter the room, our reputation precedes us. You know that expression, your reputation precedes you, sir. And you're like, oh, I hope it was good and not all bad. And so there's the visual aspect, which a lot of us do not consider or think about at all. And then there's the things that we do outside of that, our mission, our purpose, that's much bigger than who we are. Your reason for being outside of making money. Why do you exist? Those are important things for all of us to think about. But to answer your question, was it intentional? And I think in terms of me stepping on the global stage in 2014, and mind you, that's not when I started my business. It's just when I started to make content in a serious way. It was actually very intentional, mostly because I didn't know what I was doing. So my business partner at that time, Jose Caballé, and I were going to make YouTube content together. And we sat in a room, we thought, like, how do we want to show up? And as a person who's watched a lot of TV and worked in entertainment myself, I noticed something. If you ever watch a boxing or an MMA broadcast, HBO is the gold standard. There's usually 3 people on a broadcast, and it's very hard to find the right 3 people. They have what they call the play-by-play commentator, someone who describes matter-of-factly what's happening. They add some artistic license, but they're not pushing or pulling for any one person. Jim Lampley for HBO Sports does a great job doing that. Larry Merchant is the color commentator. He opines about what's going on. He's not saying like he's getting hit left. He's saying he looks tired, George. What do you think? And then George is the former pro, someone who's been there before, who can tell you what's happening inside the mind of the athlete. And it's very difficult to find 3 great broadcasters that have chemistry that bring different energy. I already knew that. So when Jose and I came together, he's Puerto Rican. I'm first generation immigrant from Vietnam. So I'm this Asian person, and I'm really focused on business and trying to run a successful business. He's a carefree spirit. So when we first got together, it's like, who do you want to be when you grow up or on the show? I think you should be the soulful, spiritual, woo-woo person who's like very kind of earthy and a little like this carefree spirit. And I will be the serious business guy. And I want to talk about business, and I want to be matter of fact. I want to be to the point. So how do we show up? Why don't you wear a tunic or something? And so he went to Venice Beach, started buying some things and beads and all kinds of stuff. And, as if he just smoked a whole giant bowl of pot. And I would literally show up in a suit and tie and ready to talk business. And so it was intentional. And
I remember
of course
that.
That's evolved.
The school days.
Yeah. The old school days, right? And we would show up and he would say, "Stern Asian dad." I'm like, a careless Puerto Rican son. What's up? We would just talk like that. And so we were crafting personalities.
I love that you almost had the Spice Girl approach, isn't it? When the manager were putting up the band that they need to have all the different personalities, and you make it really pragmatic. But the Chris, like you changed my understanding and approach to brand a few years ago, and that I would be forever grateful for that, because like you are on this mission of changing 1 billion lives. And helping people do what they really love and get paid for what they really do, right? So you are building this bridge between creatives and the C-suite, right? You're preparing and this seat for the creative person to be on the C-suite and help the business success to creativity, which is fantastic. But one of the life-changing lesson I learned from you is to be a trained extrovert, right? Someone that in reality is an introvert creative, but you can actually be trained to become that extrovert business person and connect with that world. And I see you from the school days, and I see you now, and that's inspirational. So was even that intentional, this changing from Chris at the beginning to someone that now holds the stage with pride and with this incredible charisma. Was that also a transformation you planned intentionally, or it just happened?
I think it's an evolution. There's a quote I'm going to throw out here. I hope I get the quote right. That change is inevitable, but progress is a choice. Everything changes around us. It's just our refusal to adapt to what's going on. So although everything has changed, we're electing to either adapt and grow, or we're choosing not to. So there was a couple of different things that are happening in my life at the same time. And I want to point out the three things. And then you tell me, how intentional was it? Number one, my friend Jose, who I hadn't seen in over 10 years, called me up out of the blue, and we were meeting and having coffee and talking about things. And we learned that we were both super passionate about education. I was excited about what he was doing in the web space. I wanted to learn from him. And then one thing led to another, where we started to form business ideas and then ultimately business together called The School. Coincidentally, at the same time, my business coach was saying, Chris, you got to get out there. You're hiding in your office all the time. When clients come by, you go straight to your office and you don't go out. And why is that? And don't be the world's best kept secret. You have so much talent. And he said something like this. He said, you know so many things. You've been directing teams for over 10 years now, almost 20 years. And I know that your students love you. The interns love you. But why wouldn't you put that energy out there? Go volunteer to do a talk or something. I'm like, okay. So there's this idea that Jose and I are going to do business together. We don't know what yet. And my business coach, Keir McLaren, was telling me go out there into the world. And the third thing was that the kind of trifecta part of this was our business was evolving. We were doing motion design work, production and post-production for advertising agencies. Those are who our clients were. But I was getting tired of that work. It was getting to be quite a crowded.
Oh, it dropped.
Oh, here we go. It's frozen.
And price point was coming down. So it's like, I want to do something different. I want to start working with clients directly. And in order to work with clients directly, we needed to learn new skills, account management, marketing strategies, copywriting, and then we can bring all the production part that we knew how to do. So we needed to act like the agency. All those three things were happening simultaneously and allowed me to grow into a different type of person.
So it's interesting.
I have a question, Chris.
Yes.
When I came across you, it was through the YouTube channel, and talk about zagging when everyone's zig. So we all three of us own agencies or small creative studios, and there was this real guarded way of working in the industry where you guard everything, all your secrets.
Yep.
And you guys zagged because there was you sharing all the secrets out there with others in the world. What came first? Was it that idea of just giving, or was it the look, we're going to sell courses, we're going to, or you know what I mean? Did the YouTube channel first come first, or did the idea of selling courses through the future come after? Because that's how I came onto the courses. It was after your YouTube channel.
That's a great question. So I'm going to take you back to 2007. If you guys remember, in 2008, there was this financial crisis, subprime mortgages that were ruining people financially. But in 2007, I believe we had like an economic high. And somewhere between 2007 and 2009, something happened. I was very guarded with the information. Forget about it in public, just to my own employees. It was a secret that we owned the building that we were working in. Nobody even knew, because they would always ask me, I hope that you can manage the lease, and I hope we don't get kicked out. And I would just smile, kind of like, yeah, well, I think we're pretty secure with the lease. Because in my mind, I'm like, I'm not kicking myself out of my own building. But I didn't want to disclose this information because I thought, gosh, I don't want everybody to think we're rich and we're like throwing money all over the place and everybody can be reckless, because that's not really what it is. Because up until that point, I'm working like 12, 13 years in my life now, or more than that, actually, 1995 to 2007. Somebody do the math. I guess it's 12 years at that point. And it's just like being very miserly, being careful with how we spend money, investing it in some smart investments that we're able to buy the building that we're in. Okay, so my business coach said something to me. He pulled me aside and he goes, how come you don't tell people, your creatives, what the finances are of the company and their budgets? I'm like, Kira, Why would I do that? And he said something. He said, it's really important for you to disclose this information, because how do we expect your creative directors to manage multi-$100,000 budgets, $400,000 or $500,000 budgets, if they don't really know where the money is going? So they have no information, so they'll just spend recklessly, and then you have to chase after them. And it was a very empowering idea. And he said something like this. He said, absent an explanation, people form their own narrative. So here's what people think. We were just awarded a $500,000 budget. What they hear is Chris just made 500 grand.
Yeah. Totally.
What they don't know is 420 grand will go to production. The 80 will be left over. And the 3 pitches that we lost, each cost us 15 grand each. So now 80 minus 45 leaves us a healthy $35,000 in profit. But they don't think like that.
No.
So with his encouragement, I asked my wife, who was our chief financial officer at that time, I want you to break down all of our expenses so that I can understand and the team can understand. So there's this, like, I have the deck somewhere in my old archives here. I created this pie chart. For every dollar that comes into the company, here's 3 cents goes here, 12 cents goes to the rep, this goes to rent, this goes to the furniture, software license. And so all of a sudden, everybody in the company, from our receptionist to office manager to the most senior creative director of my company, now knew where all the money was going. And I let the information out into the wild, and I took a deep breath. And you know what they did? They became more responsible. It was the most amazing thing. And Keir was right. Absent an explanation, people form their own narrative. Now they know where all the money goes. Something weird happened. All my creative directors started to manage the project as if it were their money. And they would say, Chris, we don't need this. We're cutting this out. And they would tell the producers, find a cheaper person. We don't need that fit. Don't rent those workstations. They were managing in a way that made me really proud. Like, my God, I have a really good team. Prior to that, it was like they're booking everybody, and like there were people sitting around the office that was costing me $600-700 a day doing nothing. And I was like, why is there so much waste here? So that empowered me. So once I did that and I saw the result of that, I started to disclose. They were like, what are we doing about the building? I'm like, I don't know. I own it. So, it'll be all right, guys. And they're like, wow, you own the building? I'm like, yeah, I own the other building too. But, nobody ever asked me. So now I'm telling you. And all of a sudden I started opening up. This is in 2007, 8, right? So this information is getting out there. So by the time we get into YouTube, I'm like, I'm already free from this idea that I'm not going to guard this information anymore. It didn't hurt me in a professional, personal circle. So what if I say it in public? Who cares? See what people, if my friends and the people I care about don't turn bad on me, what do I care what a bunch of strangers think? So when Jose says, Chris, let's go on YouTube and make content, he had a very deliberate plan. Now, I want to tell you, he was the mentor and I was the mentee. He had experience with YouTube, creating products and teaching online. I had teaching experience offline in a classroom, brick and mortar. So his idea was, we're going to launch a product that's going to be called Core. In order for people to find out about the product, we need to make content. So initially, if you watch those first few episodes, and if you now know what you know, you're like, oh, I see what they're doing. They're talking about concepts that'll agitate curiosity, that then will inquire about this framework that they keep talking about on the side. But the problem with this strategy was people can feel, even if it's not explicitly clear, that all the content was a veiled sales pitch. So our audience did not grow. The channel was moving steadily, but it was like 50 followers, 24 followers. It wasn't any massive number. So one day I tell Jose, I feel a little strange creating content to sell to people. I just want to go back to my teacher mode. And we had a little bit of a discussion, debate about it. He's like, we have to make content to sell product. You do understand that's how a business is built. I'm like, yeah, I understand, but we're not selling product and we're not growing the channel. So I know results. That's theory. What are the results? So I said, you know what? New rule, create content, work really hard on presenting, and don't sell or pitch a single freaking thing. He goes, okay. That first video was called Brand Identity Design. And that's the first video that I was involved with that started to take off. I'm not talking about viral numbers, but take off relative to our measly, small, modest channel, which taught me something. You have to choose. Do you want to try to make money or do you want to try to build an audience community? And I chose build a community. So from that point forth, I just made content to teach people. A lot of the content, as you know, Ash, has no connection to a product or pitch to anything that we do. Because people literally ask us in the DMs, do you sell this? Do you teach this? I'm like, yeah, I just sold you a free video. That's what I teach. I didn't hold anything back. And the comment that I love the most when I'm reading things on YouTube is, I feel like I stole something. I feel guilty. Why is this out here for free? Right? And your free stuff is better than their paid stuff. And that to me is affirming. That means that we're on track with the mission. Now, people will find ways to give us money. I need money. I like money. Don't get me wrong. Send as much as you want. Right? But I don't want it to be like the only reason why I'm teaching is to make money off of you.
I love that, Chris, and I think you've been consistent throughout. What's funny is that you started way before a lot of people actually started noticing the future anyway. So it's not an overnight success. And I think these days when you see people starting off, there's the desperation of making money first. So it's always about the sales stuff. And I know people that I speak to about personal branding. It's, yeah, that's great, personal branding, but what about my business? I need to make money. A question to you, if you didn't have the luxury of an agency that was making money and money wasn't coming in, would have you done the same thing?
Very good question. You're asking me a crazy hypothetical, because I'm going to answer this, but everybody needs to keep in mind my answer is a little bit skewed, because how do I pretend that I'm not who I am, right?
Right.
So in 2014, when we're making content, I am now 2014, I'm 19 years into my business. I'm probably, $40-50 million more in cumulative revenue. And I have a beautiful home. I own 2 buildings. So I have a way to make money. The business that we were running was making between $4 to $5.5 million every single year, pretty much on rails, which means I don't have to manage it that actively for it to build that much. Now, keep in mind, that's $4.5 million in revenue, not in profit, okay? I just want to put that out there. It's expensive to make commercials. So now if I forget all that stuff and I'm desperate, I'm out of school and I'm like a new kid on the block trying to like rub 2 nickels together, the first thing I want to focus on is mastery. I need to get good at something. I need to demonstrate that what I've learned or what I think I know is desired by the market. And my primary focus is to rise to the very top of that class, whatever that is. So web designer, videographer, editor, I just want to be known in a very small circle of people. When people think of the best, not in the city, not in the state, but in the world. When I get to that level, I start to think, okay, now that I have experience, what can I share to the public about what it is that I've learned? I think this is kind of important to point out, because I know, especially in those early days, there are a bunch of yahoos who don't know how to draw, who don't know how to design logos, who are on the internet teaching you how to draw a logo, selling courses on this. And I was thinking, no, I went to art school. I can tell you don't know how to draw a logo. I can tell how shaky your hand is. You don't know how to draw a logo. I can tell you that the letter forms that you're designing look like ass and you're not observing basic principles of letter form design. The emphasis of weights is inconsistent. Your flourishes are trash, as the kids say. And I can tell it's like, and I didn't want to be associated with all those YouTubers. And that was a derogatory term back then, of these yahoos teaching stuff that they didn't know anything about. And I didn't think at that point in time, no self-respecting, accomplished professional was going to be on YouTube. But you know what? Here's like a key to life. When everyone's going one way, as you say, Ash, when they zig, you go the opposite way. When everyone is selling on the stock market, you should be buying. And when everyone's buying, you should be selling. If you follow the herd, you get slaughtered. So I was thinking, okay, fine. I'm going to be a pariah in my industry. I own an agency. I'm going to go out there and tell you how to run an agency, what to charge us, how to charge your clients. And it got a lot of people upset at me. And I didn't know it at the time, because I'm thinking, hey, I'm an innocent guy. I'm just trying to help the people. And what I didn't know is that certain parties and events, like industry functions, people are trashing my name. Like, that guy is ruining our industry. He's telling people this stuff, and they were just upset at me. And the thing is, I think there's a Gandhi quote somewhere where at first they want to fight you, then eventually they ignore you, and then they thank you. I was on the fighting stage. It took a long time for them to turn that arc and say, thank you for teaching us. Thank you for saying the things that we could never say. But it took a long time to get there. But I was committed to doing that, Ash.
But that's how you think about positive forces around us, how that works in society, right? I'll mention music because that's the way I talk. But if we think about a new music or a new band or a new artist, they're the ones that always rebel against it, and they get hate for starting to do it, and eventually and then they over succeed, right? And they become the legacy in most cases, like which they become. I've got a question about benchmarks, right? We're all I don't want to go into the self-doubt area, but when you've got a pinpoint in your head and you go, right, if I make it this far, if I make it to what I feel this guy has made it, I've made it. Like what was your benchmark in life to say I've made it?
Okay. You're gonna laugh at my benchmarks. But I'm gonna be real with you guys, okay?
Yeah.
The first benchmark that I wanted to say I made it was, and I said this to my wife, one day, honey, we're gonna have 3 full-time employees that we're gonna pay a salary to with benefits, with health insurance, and they're gonna be able to take a vacation. And we're gonna pay maybe not top dollar, but we're not gonna pay bottom barrel. And 1 employee, 2 employees, and 3 employees. And I'm like, babe, we made it. We made it in America. We did it. But as a kid, I thought it would be great if one day I could have a design studio on the beach. Because I watched 30 something when I was growing up, and they had a studio on the beach. I was like, this is it. Volleyball, skateboarding, surfing, beautiful people. This is it. And you know what? The first house that we bought was a block and a half away from Venice Beach, a stone's throw away. And it's like everything in my life that I set my mind to, and I believe a lot in like the vision board, you manifest things into your existence by focusing on what it is that you want and then taking the necessary steps to get there. Every goal or every accomplished person starts with a clear definition of what done looks like and starts to break it down step by step and eventually get there. And then we said, like, let's crack our first $1 million. And then we passed that. I'm like, how about 2 million? We passed that. And I was like, what are the limits of this stuff? And apparently, depending on your ambition, desire, and willingness to work, there are no limits. There are no limits, only the limits that you create for yourself. So those are like the benchmarks. And then I remember this one. This one's a good one. ID Magazine. It's no longer in existence, but ID Magazine was one where they would do this annual review of product design, environmental design, and graphic design. I was like, one day I want to be featured in ID Magazine. And time again, we would enter, no. And eventually they said yes, and we were in ID Magazine. I'm like, we made it. We made it.
Amazing. Can I just add some of that? Like, you justified in your first response.
Yeah.
Because you thought about people first, which that was my vision of you, like wrapping people. And your first benchmark was people, and I love that. Just gonna
take care of the people; they'll take care of you.
100%. I'm about.
Amen. Chris, there is a big contrast and a bit of a misunderstanding out there between personal branding and business branding, right? I think a lot of business people kind of like push away personal branding because it's not needed. A lot of founders, they kind of stop their team to develop personal brandings and everything. So help me understand and help understand the people out there. What is your relationship between personal branding and business branding?
Yeah, I was at a conference and there were a lot of realtors and mortgage brokers, not quote unquote creative people, right? It sounds crazy, but I love talking to them. And I gave a talk on personal branding, and this lady came over and she was super enthusiastic. She said, Chris, I apologize. Our people, the realtors, they don't understand branding. That's okay.
People.
Right? Our people, they say our people don't understand branding. I'm like, that's okay. Branding people don't understand branding. So you're in good company. I won't worry about it. Okay. So let's start to unpack all this stuff. I'm sure I'm going to make some enemies today for sure. If it's not a good day unless a couple people get mad at me. So let's start there. There are a lot of designers who understand that branding is a buzzword, who throw that word around as if they're doing branding. Like, no, you drew a logo. That is not branding. It's a part of it. It's an important part, but it ain't branding. Mm-hmm. Branding is the totality of the entire customer experience across multiple touch points, across every touch point. So from the minute that they think of you to the point in which they receive the product or service, and the aftercare and the customer support, that is branding. And very few creative people actually want to get involved in that, but they keep calling themselves, we're a branding firm. Well, show me how you brand. Well, I designed that brochure. That ain't it. That is not it. I promise you, because no one is walking around holding that brochure and like, this is the brand I love. No one says that, right? It's all the little touch points, and you have to get involved with business design, user experience design. And there are very few firms that actually do it well. I always say Collins, we are Collins. Brian Collins is an amazing speaker, visionary. He runs an amazing branding firm. He calls it a user experience design firm, and he understands that because he doesn't want to be lumped in with all these yahoos and wannabes. So even creative people who should know better don't know better. Let's move on to the next thing. Now, people often refer to us, oh, a person has a great personal brand, or you do great branding. They don't understand that at all. They use the word branding synonymously or interchangeably with marketing. A lot of people think personal branding is performance or direct to consumer or client direct marketing. So they think because they have a good offer that it looks good and they're making sales that they have a personal brand. People often also think because you have a large following, you have a personal brand. Not true. There's tons of people who have large following that you can give a rat's ass about who they are, and you know nothing about their story. So here are a couple of tests for you. Test number 1, what premium are people willing to pay above a comparable alternative? That is the power of your brand. Okay. So if there are 2 phones and one person's willing to pay a lot more for a phone that does similar things, that is the value of your brand. Now, the easy one to point to is Apple. Basically, Apple commands the Apple tax. Everyone's willing to pay more because they want to be associated with something. And it's not because they have the best tech or the best camera or the best fill in the blank. It's because it makes us feel something when we own an Apple product. There is, especially in some parts of the world, a sense of status. You know, somebody had told me when I was holding my phone around in Vietnam, they're like, oh, hold that much closer to you because you have a 3i phone. I'm like, 3i, because they see the 3 lenses. That's a status symbol, right? Because they know that that is a more pro version, a newer version of the iPhone. I'm like, oh, I wasn't even aware of that. Okay. So it's a status symbol, like the car that you drive, the clothes that you wear. Most likely, if there's a brand, you paid a premium. So we know you can buy a pair of jeans like Lee jeans or Jordache. What are they, $25? I'm a little out of the market here, but then Levi's will cost you $55 or $60. But let's say Diesel jeans will cost you $250, and Louis Vuitton jeans will cost you over $1,000. They're all pairs of jeans. Yeah, the denim quality is a little bit different. Maybe there's a little bit more detailing, but it's not 10x. It's not 50x. What is that? That's brand. So a brand is not a brand unless it commands a premium over its like alternative. The comparable commodity, what is the premium? And so I was talking to Alan Dibb about this. He describes it as goodwill. A brand creates goodwill.
Yeah.
Okay. Goodwill can be measured in dollars. It's not just an idea. So when people say a brand is not worth anything, the things that you're making, they're absolutely freaking wrong. Yeah. Second test on brand is if your association with something makes it more valuable, you have a brand. Let's look at this one more time. So if we slap a Nike logo on a t-shirt, the goodwill, the brand is worth something. It's worth more than a Hanes Beefy tee. The minute they put a Supreme logo on it, a Louis Vuitton logo. So now that symbol, and this is why designers get all confused about it. They're like, it's a symbol that's worth something. No, it's not. It's everything that symbol stands for. Just like you are not worth anything unless you stand for something. Okay. The last thing is interchangeability. Can we make some predictions about what you would make? Okay. So here we go. The simple test is this. And I'll just borrow the classic here, right? Hilton hotels. If they make a car, what is that car like? We have no idea. If Hilton starts a clothing company, it's first of all, it'd be not worth much. But like, we can't even imagine what it'd be like. But if Nike started a church, we would know what that would be like. Right?
Yeah.
So you see, like, what a strange concept, because we understand who they are and we can make certain assumptions and predictions. So the whole branding process is making sure we're curating and influencing positive associations with what we stand for.
Yeah.
So when you have no idea what this company is about, their founders, or what they do, the culture, their service, then they have no brand. Now, you can take all those principles and we can separate them into two categories, corporations and people. And they're very different, okay? Corporations, as we know, are a made-up legal entity. You can't go out and touch a corporation. You can't talk to a corporation. A corporation is a department of a lot of different people: marketing, strategy, copywriting, legal, HR, PR. And so when you hear something from a company, it's filtered through lots of people. It needs to be, because one misstep could cost them millions, if not billions of dollars. Whereas in a personal brand, you only check in with yourself. And you only have one job: to be true to you. So, Wes, you were talking earlier about this idea of being success or being successful. Like, if people stick to something long enough, they might be successful.
Great.
My definition of success is a little bit different. Allow me to introduce you an inner reframe here. Change the inner frame. Success is just you being true to you. When you compromise that, I don't care how much money you have, I don't care how famous you are not successful to me. And we've seen this time and time again. People who we think are successful, they're in the limelight, that have all the trappings of fame and money and power, they come tumbling down pretty hard. Often, many of them lead to depression, sometimes suicide, because it's almost like a mirage. So poor people can be very successful, poor financially, but rich in their spirit. And I think that's something that's really important we have to kind of keep track of.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I love that.
But talking about like business coaches, right? I'm sure we've all got them. We've all got like our guides or our financial advisors, and we always get challenged with that question. Like, but why are you doing this for free? Like, why aren't you charging for that? But I'm like, because that meets my purpose. That meets something that I want to achieve, and I'm helping people along the journey with me, right? And I'm a firm believer of like that will impact and come back positively. And so as long as we keep on and we keep positive and we keep trying, eventually that will land. And I think that's something that I want to give out to people that's creating or just trying to live a personal brand. I don't think you create it, you just become it, right? It's part of you. And just stick to what you believe and stick to what you want to nurture, and that will become you, right? And I'm guilty of it myself. Like I even strategize myself about putting myself out there and why I did it. And looking back, now my coach, he's like, yeah, I get why you do that now. I can see the long-term benefits. I can see, but people will always try and stop you from doing what you believe is right if it's not financially right. That's a line. I mean, and it's just mad how we will get knocked off track slightly if we don't just believe in ourselves and believe what's right.
Yeah, 100%. Chris, like I want to provoke you into something. There is something that really helped getting my personal brand out there. Like I'm a forever immigrant. I'm coming from a mixed family. I wasn't fully myself in Italy. I wasn't fully myself in UK, and I'm not fully myself in Cyprus. And your story inspired me quite a lot, right? Because I call myself a forever immigrant. Everywhere I go, I'm not kind of like into place, And I understood it was my superpower. I understood that being my true self, it's much easier and it's a superpower that really connect with people. And one of the things that I always tell others is that you are a personal brand, whether you want it or not, whether you do it by choice or by chance. And I want to pick your brain on this provocation.
Martin, the last sentence that you said kind of was like it broke up for me. Could you repeat that last sentence?
Yeah, like that I always say to other people when I'm trying to talk about brand, and especially personal brand, that you are already a brand, whether you want it or not. The difference is being by chance or by choice.
Okay, I agree.
Why do you think people have troubles in getting out there as their true self, as their true brand? What do you think is the main problem stopping?
I think this is a topic on vulnerability, and I had a similar question as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So can I add to that as well before you answer
Please.
that, Chris? I've been in your personal branding workshop when you came to London, and you you're big on origin stories and sharing your vulnerabilities. I know that that's important. Why is that important to you and someone's personal brand?
Thank you for asking it. I'm going to talk about this for as long as you let me talk about it, okay?
We can run over. I'm cool.
Okay. Martin, I want to ask you to kind of reframe how you describe yourself. I like that you say you're a forever immigrant, but that also says there's something about always being on the outside and never fitting in. Some level of self-acceptance that's not fully there. I love that you can call it out like that. But the reframe I would have for you is, instead of being a forever immigrant, I think you're a global citizen. You belong to the world and not to a place. You belong to an idea, not a region. And I think that's much more powerful. So to me, words do matter, because it's how we describe ourselves with words is how we encode the emotions and the memories and the stories we tell. And so just think about that, right? Because of your mixed origin story or ethnicity, or maybe you're displaced. And I think it's easy for immigrants to feel like I don't have a home ever. And that to me is a sad thing. I mean, I felt that way for many years, and I had to do some inner work to sort through that. So I don't always feel like I'm not welcome anywhere, and I don't have a home. Everywhere is my home, and home is where my heart is. And so it doesn't matter if it's in Los Angeles or somewhere in Europe or Asia. I bring my home with me. So I just put that out there for all the immigrants, especially because we know there are a couple of wars going on, and I'm not trying to pick a side anything here. It's horrible when lives are lost. But if you have to leave and flee, find home where you wind up being, because it's an idea, not a place. Okay. Next is this idea about vulnerability. And why is it important? Well, when we think about some of the most enduring people throughout history, not like in the last 30 years, but like throughout all of time, and as I put my brain on it, there's a couple of traits that these people have. And you can pick your hero, your icon. It doesn't matter. You can say it's Jesus, or it's Martin Luther King Jr., or somebody else. It doesn't matter. You envision this person in your mind, a person of substance. And what is it that they have in common? And I've refined it since that personal branding workshop in the UK a little bit. Ash will allow me to expand on it. The three things, as I can imagine or observe, is number one, there's a high degree of self-awareness. They know who they are, but self-awareness is only the first half. And it leads us to the second half, which is really important, which is probably more important than any other thing, is self-acceptance. I cannot accept myself if I don't know who I am. And so many of us trapped in adult bodies are really just children inside, and we don't know who we are. There's real reasons why I think that's the case. I'll get into that a little bit later. So who am I? And I need to learn to love myself the way I am, both positive and negative, right? It's like some people are like, I love everything about myself except for these things. No, those things make you you. It's really important. And I can point out to some stories, some pop culture stories, to kind of help you understand this concept a little bit deeper. But self-acceptance will lead you to the next important point or characteristic, which is self-confidence. And self-confidence is, in a lot of ways, misunderstood by people. They think self-confidence is that alpha male or female who walks in the room, who owns the stage, and is clear and is dynamic and charismatic. That can be self-confidence, but oftentimes that's a mask to cover up a lot of insecurity. The person who's the most self-confident to me is the person who is comfortable in their own skin, never speaks unless they can contribute to a conversation, and hold space for other people. They're not interested in being the light. They want to shine the light for others. And in doing so, they are so attractive to so many people. And you'll see them because they walk into the room and people are just drawn to them. We describe it as having a magnetic personality without even saying anything. It's just the way you walk in, the way you smile, the kindness of your eyes, and how you intentionally choose certain words. To me, that's self-confidence. It's not to make other people feel smaller than you. It's just walking in your own truth, and it's a beautiful thing. And number three, the thing that you talk about, Ash, it's vulnerability. And when I say vulnerability, I don't mean like, oh my God, I had such a tragic upbringing, and you're constantly reminding people of that. Vulnerability, in another word, is called transparency. I will show you all the good and the bad and everything in between. I don't hide anything. I'm not, and I'm very transparent. So The opposite of which is to say, I'm opaque. Like, what's going on in your mind, and having a poker face. I can't read you. What is it you're thinking? Now, I'll point you to something here. And I like to make references to pop culture so people can understand, so it doesn't become too much of an academic intellectual exercise. I want you to think about the movies that you fall in love with, the characters who you most identify with. They're almost always imperfect, and they're struggling between doing good and being bad, between being a hero and being a coward. They oscillate between these two things because that's how real life is. When a character is too perfect, either in real life or in fiction, we're like, something's wrong. They're hiding something. There's a bunch of skeletons in that closet. And in Pixar's 22 rules of storytelling, rule number 1 is they say the audience admires characters more for their struggles than for their success. So all of the characters in Disney and Pixar and in a lot of movies, they struggle with things. If you want to identify, just think right now, in cinema, in fiction, wherever else, in TV, in film, in books, in comics, who's your favorite character? Right? So when I was growing up in the 80s, I loved the X-Men. And I'm so happy that Disney and Marvel acquired the rights to the X-Men because they've been screwed over in the movies. Right? The X-Men were really interesting because I'm going to get a little geeky on you guys, because they're homo superior. We're a homo sapiens. And they're the next evolutionary of human beings. And they represent a threat to the majority. So in the storyline, they're hunted, they're feared, and they're misunderstood. Right? And depending on what era you've lived in, if you were gay at one point, people would say, down with you. Don't ever mention it. Don't say, don't tell, don't ask. And today it's probably trans people. There's always a group of people who feel like they don't belong because the majority do not accept them. So the X-Men are such powerful characters and concepts. And when they tapped into this, they were sending a signal out to a lot of young people. There's a bunch of fictional characters that are just like you. They have a special gift, but the world does not understand them. They're often attacked, bullied, and murdered. How relatable is that, everybody? So you see, like when you craft characters, and you know what we're all doing? We're all running around pretending to be richer than we are, to be happier than we are, to have better relationships than we have. Why? Because we want to be perceived as being successful, but that act of pretending is the thing that drives a wedge between you and the person. And the reason why I lean so hard on vulnerability is because I know beautiful people, not on the outside, but beautiful people on the inside. And I keep looking at them and saying, why do you keep showing up as some other person? If you just tell people these components about you, the world would love you. And that's the one thing you want, is you want the love and acceptance of people. But what you keep doing unconsciously and consciously is to push them away. You hold back. And time again, I'll call up my friends and I'll send them a DM like, why didn't you tell the real story? That you're struggling financially, that you're borderline broke, but you keep showing people you're buying stuff. Like, I don't understand that about you. Or, you know what? Your father or mother left you and you felt abandoned for all of your life. And every decision that you're making right now is to try to make up for that relationship that you never had. If you just told that story, first of all, you'd forgive yourself and realize it wasn't your fault. But everyone in the world who had a story like that, who could identify with that, would say, my gosh, I didn't know that about you. And look at you now. Look at where you're going. I'm inspired by you. I need to follow your steps. Right? Everything I'm saying is not new. It has been new for hundreds of years. The technology has changed. But why are people drawn to it, to me? Because for whatever reason, the story I've told, who I show up in the world, resonates with some people. Clearly not all people. And Ash, you talked about your skin condition. And that, as far as I can tell, has done wonders for your self-acceptance, your self-confidence, and how much people 100%. Relate to you. But here we all are.
I think it's a great analogy, the superhero analogy, in that, Superman's cool, he can fly. Incredible Hulk's cool, he's got great big muscles, and Spider-Man's cool because he can climb up walls. But they're only cool for us because we emotionally experience their journey, right? And we can do that in terms of what we do in real life and online as well. And I saw that change massively when it came to talking openly on a corporate platform like LinkedIn about my skin condition, and you're right, it was self-acceptance because it was a therapeutic post that I did, and I only realized the power of doing that, and the power in terms of I didn't really like LinkedIn that much. I've never been a corporate type of person, although I had worked in corporate settings, and I saw LinkedIn as that online. But then the messages and comments I got and about me sharing my story, and others saying, not people with vitiligo, but others talking about how empowered they felt about telling their story, about their insecurities, that was so much more rewarding, and which is why I kept on doing what I did. And yeah, all of the things, like you said, all of the things after came after that point. It's powerful.
It's a bit of an insight for me, even though you guys know me. My wife calls me Hulk. I'll let you guess why, but you know. But
Hulk.
Let's not go into details. Not today. I know it's Friday, Wes, but
I can see why. I can see the Bruce Banner in you.
Clearly, the physique. That's why she's calling you the Hulk.
Clearly about the
Clearly. Yes.
Yeah. Wes is on the outer. He's a tough guy. Here's a funny story. The first time I met Wes was Martin Neumeyer's second installment of the branding class. And although I knew Wes online, I've never met him in person. And when I saw him, and I thought, oh my God, here comes trouble, right? Because he was waving, and I didn't really know him that well, but he was the first person to hug me, and that meant so much, you know, when he had a one-to-one. And I thought, okay, and that was the Bruce Banner in him.
I'm a secret hugger. Like, that's one of my superpowers. Like, when the pandemic came along, I lost it, and I was like, what the hell now? Like, what can I do? You know what I mean? Like, so I want to end this. We started this on our last guest, and Ash failed massively. So, but I want to know what questions you've got for us.
What questions do I have for you guys?
Yeah, or me.
Okay. Well, I'm curious. Why are there three of you on this? I was like, this is the first time I'm like, there's three people I'm talking to. What is it about the dynamic of the three? I know three is a magic number, but what is it that you guys find in?
Bring that Dennis Gold in there. It's
Great
a good
question.
one. Like, we were going to talk about this. We've got a gap in Cyprus in like 4 episodes time, and we were going to talk about our journey. So I will leave a lot out. But I don't know. The dynamic seems to be weird. Like, we just connected. We connected through level C. We connected together, working together. We hit it off from the get-go. It's weird when chemistry in life like happens like that. Like, you know, we're all like, well, apart from Martin, he's the baby, but we're all like 40s, mid-40s. I've left country. I lost a lot of friends. I didn't really have people I connected with on a real, like, and then out of nowhere I get these guys that just come into my life, and I'm like, wow, there's something weird here happening, you know, like, and it just became natural, and we just literally, I had this idea. Again, it's all by music. It was about like the Wu-Tang and the RZA and the way of working, and I had this idea about a collective, and I just proposed a question thinking I'd get loads of kickback in the back of a cab in London, and everyone was like, yeah, let's just do it. And then I was like, oh shit, like, this is like, I've got to actually do something with this. So we then just, again, there was no animosity, there was no egos. It was like, okay, if we're going to make this work, how do we make it work? You know, like, and we've never really questioned anything. Yes, we've had I wouldn't say arguments, but we've challenged each other. But it's literally a point of like, we can finish each other's conversations. We can roll on another conversation into each other. When we're in a workshop environment, it's like we naturally challenge each other in front of client, and I think that freaks some clients out, because we'll get into like really full blown like, I'm not with you, guy. You know what I mean? Like, and we'll challenge each other. It's just this natural synergy. And I found it really weird at the start of the call, and you're like, there has to be 3. And I'd never looked at this, like, or analyzed it like you did, like in commentary. But when you look at us 3, like, there are 3 of those people. Like, I wouldn't say I'm the skilled commentator, but, you know, like that bit who's lived it, who's been through it, who's waded through life, who who's got these like streetwise kind of hacks, like keeping your bag closed, putting your bag underneath your chair when you're in public, XYZ, right? Living in New York, you get these things, and you've got Hash, who's like the old grounded wise man, and then you've got Martin, who's coming through, who's like accelerating through life, and he's just willing to absorb and take it all on and just run with it, and I think that as a dynamic just works. We never expected to be Wham. That just happened. We said like
people started calling us Wham. Where's Ash and Martin? So we just ran with it.
Yeah, and then
it was kind of an organic.
Martin's internal CMS, we were called as Wham. So when he got booked out, we were Wham, and it just happened. And his equal actually called it as publicly, and he's a friend of ours from Level C, and we're like, okay, so let's run with this now. Let's just roll with it. And yeah, it's a great question, and I don't know how it works, but it does. And we're miles apart. Me and Ash live quite close, but we didn't know that at the time. And Martin's in another, time zone in another country, and it's just mad, man. Daily we speak, daily we talk. We support each other mentally, like physically. It's crazy. It's just such a weird dynamic that, if I'm really honest, like I never expected this to happen, and it just did, and I'm forever grateful. It's mad. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a suggestion for you. If you're going to call yourselves Wham, I think you need to wear those 80 short shorts that are pink and let your hair flow if you have any. You know what I mean? You got to go all in on this. And I think you need some branded merch, where each one of you wears one of the letters, the W, the A, and the M. And maybe they're all made from the same letter form, just tweaked a little, like just delete parts. Like the W is the M upside down, the A is just part of the M but broken.
We're almost there. Like if you look at the logo,
yeah, I see that, but just to build it off the same, the W and the M look the same.
Yeah,
right, just upside down.
Yeah,
it's exactly. The A. If you could just make the A part of the W.
The A is always the problem, Chris.
Yeah.
The A with Ash is always the problem. That's why he's in the middle, because
it's always that A.
9 times out of 10 he's lost or he's late or he's trying to think.
Yeah.
Chris, thanks so much. Thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Can you let us know anything that's happening in your world at the moment and the future? Any plans that we need to know about, or any kind of resources apart from the future YouTube channel that people should be following?
Yeah, I want to mention something. I mean, I've been rather shy about mentioning any of our products and services, so I'm not going to be shy about this anymore. I realized something, and it was reaffirmed to me last night with Alan Dibb. He says, you know what sales is, or what you're in the business of? You're in the business of transferring your confidence and your competence to other people. And so when we do something that's great, like each and every one of you provided an amazing service to somebody, a client of yours. And if we believe in this, that it's a gift and we have to give the gift away, it's not supposed to be for us to keep. We can't be shy about asking and telling people about what we do. So I manage a coaching community. You mentioned at the top of the hour, called the Pro Group. And it is for creative entrepreneurs who are $100,000 north and are a couple of years in business, but feel like, you know what? I need a business backboard to bounce ideas off of. And I need a group of people who are positive, who are like-minded, who are equally ambitious or more ambitious than me. And I want to have a place where I can share my victories, my losses, and everything in between, and not feel judged for it negatively. And it's called the Future Pro. And I'd love for people to look into it. It's $250 a month. I'm not saying it's cheap. Some people think it's worth it. Some people don't. But I'll let you decide.
Worth it.
It's very well worth it.
Yeah, amen. I think Chris, you changed all of our lives here at WAM in some way or another. You're on a mission to change. I don't know how many millions more, but you have that billion mission in life, and we can just us creative and helping us get our seat into the C-suite. We will be forever grateful, man. Bless Jose for making it happen at the beginning. Bless you to come into US and the challenging and everything. I think you're one of those that just changed so many lives. And thanks for being here for this hour as well. I know you're a busy man.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate
and you guys keep whamming it, you know?
We will wham!
We're going to wham it 100%. And hopefully there's a wham and Chris do a line up in the near future.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Look at that.
Sweet, man. Enjoy the
Take care, Chris.
I appreciate it, bro.
Have a good one, Chris.
Okay, take care, guys.
See you later.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow, what another great episode. I
Oh,
love that.
crazy.
So good.
That's crazy, man. So
I can't believe, you know that the first time that I was speaking to Chris was by mistake on Clubhouse. You remember that audio only platform? And I remember I just shot myself that all of a sudden Chris Do came into the room. But this is a manifestation of how things change, in it passed like 3 or 4 years, and now we have Chris Do and we're having a conversation with him. I think it's like what he said. Just it's an evolution, isn't it?
yeah, it's crazy, man. It's mad how you interact with people that you admire a lot. And obviously, Ash got a hug from me. But like when I first met Marty, I did the same thing. I didn't know what to do, so I naturally just walked up to him and just hugged him. Like I was like, "Hi," and I'm sure he was like, "What the hell is Wes doing to me right now?"
Yeah.
But great episode. I want to do a few shout outs. Like, I want to take the stage.
Yeah, man.
I want to say shouts to like Ian. They're in an earthquake. They just survived an earthquake in New York. It's been crazy. I don't know if you read that. So shouts for showing up. Glad the internet still works. We've got Johnny P there, Lena, Stephen Pedros, Renos, and my man G-Man is in the house. Like Gary Does Copy turned up. What a fucking domain.
We also have Renos from Cyprus. We have Kate from Cyprus as well.
Yeah, but I think that spot goes to my boy Chris Samba, who's flying back from Hong Kong to the UK, watching us on a plane. Let's take that. That's literally taking it to new heights. Like, all done, no pun. Let's go.
We have Lina Batti. That's the best comment ever. I think that one I'm gonna print it on and stick it on the wall.
Yeah, I love it. And then Israel just rocked up. I met this guy like on a shoot when I was filming an ad. He was one of my actors. Like, I didn't even know he'd rock up. Like, they're all coming through. Raka's here. Wow, what a day.
Good and day, Raka.
Today was a good day.
Master ladies,
we talk about in a couple of weeks what we're going to be chatting about.
Yeah. I think people know right now that they can expect fucking awesome guests every time.
Another great guest.
Definitely more coming. 100.
Yeah. What's the topic on? Let me just have a.
You don't know it. Come on, bro. This is
man, these get planned well in advance.
You want me to know what it is?
I'm prepared. I'm also prepared.
Mastering the art of conversion. Like
the brand impact of outbound versus inbound selling.
What a great second part then, right? Because we're talking about not having to sell all the time and more about like attracting. And now we're going to next talk about actually how to sell online and how to do it properly as well.
Really shit. Like I'm a seller, I'm not made for it at all.
No.
Yeah, but like there is a fundamental concept like that humans love to buy, but they hate to be sold off. I think once you are able to navigate the lines between that, it becomes a bit more impactful. But I'm looking forward. Another person that I learned a lot from. Another person that is doing massive waves into his sector, and I think like there is a comment here that Miroslav said. This episode will be hard to beat. That is our goal, Miroslav. Yeah. Our best episode is the next one. So you will not know who's coming, but you will know I will be dropping gems. Yeah.
Watch out for Greg's. Like Miroslav actually connected the dots.
He got it. Yeah.
Look out for the next one.
Right, guys. Thanks so much for being here. Everyone in the audience really appreciate it. Wes, Martin, take care.
Take it easy. Have a good weekend.
Bye.